Hey guys, so what's the problem that most people have with modern micro pistols? I think the biggest issue that a lot of people have is that they are polymer frame striker fire pistols. Just like this Smith & Wesson Shield. Now, what would you do if I told you there are other options besides a polymer frame striker fire pistol for these micro pistols? Well, there is. And that is the CSX E-Series, also from Smith & Wesson. This is a metal frame hammer fire pistol. And we're going to do a quick review on it. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Gundidi, and this week we're going to do a quick review on the CSX E-Series from Smith & Wesson. This is a hammerfire metal frame pistol that is about the same size as a Smith & Wesson Shield. So it gives you that concealability, it gives you that portability, and gives you that reliability of the hammerfire and the metal frame. This is a neat pistol that was offered originally as the CSX. Now, they had some flaws with the CSX, and they did some remastering for the E-Series. Now, if you've watched my reviews of the E-Series, you might remember that I had an issue with the first one that I tested. Well, guess what? This is that first one. So we're going to go ahead and see if that issue is still an issue or if it worked itself out being shot a lot. Other than that, you'll also know that I did do a update video where I said that Smith & Wesson admitted that that was an issue with this pistol, and the next one I got my hands on did not have that same issue. You guys might be wondering, if you haven't watched that video, what that issue was. Well, let's go ahead and show you that trigger and see if this one has that issue. This is empty, of course. We got a little bit of take up to a nice clean break. Let's go ahead and see that reset. This is where the issue was last time. Yep, still has, yeah, it seems like it worked itself out. It might have been a burr or something in the trigger components when this pistol first came out, because it seems like it fixed it. What happened is it had like kind of a false reset where the trigger would reset, but it wouldn't actually reset the actual trigger mechanism. You'd hear the click, and it wouldn't be actually reset. Seems like after shooting it, it worked itself out. So it's probably just a burr inside the trigger components. So this guy is the CSX E-Series. This is the bigger of the two. This is the 3.6-inch barrel. Comparing it to my Smith & Wesson's 3.1-inch barrel, you can see that it is a bit longer than the Smith & Wesson Shield. This is an optics-ready pistol for that RMSC pattern. One thing I will point out, one of the things I'm not a fan of is how their optic system mounts here. So what ends up happening is when you unscrew these screws, that rear sight pops off too. And I will show you in a footage here below that the first time I took this eye out shooting, my buddy did not have the screws tight enough when I borrowed this gun. And first shot, sight popped right off. And I spent the rest of the morning hunting down parts. So nonetheless, that is a negative to this, in my opinion, is that how that rear sight mounts. It does have a tension screw there, but I'm not sure exactly what it does as the rear sight actually mounts into the optics plate. I'm not sure, but this is an interesting pistol. Let's go over the specs from nose to rear, and then we'll get into shooting this guy. Starting at the nose, of course, this is a 3.6-inch barrel. It's got some really nice slide serrations on the front end of the gun. Makes it to where you can rack that very easily, do your press checks, all that fun stuff. On top, you have a standard 3-dot sight system. Nothing fancy, but it is a 3-dot sight system. We have the grooves in there for glare reduction, so when you're presenting in bright sunny situations, you don't have the glare off the shiny parts of the slide. Moving on down, this is a metal frame on this guy. So this is all metal frame with some polymer inserts for the grip panels, which are interchangeable, so you can get a decent sized grip however big or small your hand is. We are optics ready, of course, for that RMSC footprint. We have a nice slide serrations on the rear that you can get a good handle on. This guy is very light to rack once that hammer is back, just so you're aware. When the hammer's down, it's a little heavy because you are fighting that hammer spring, but it's still lighter than my Smith & Wesson Shield that you're fighting that recoil spring the entire time. So just something to point out for you guys who might have some dexterity issues. Moving on down, we have a basic trigger with a trigger blade safety. Just something to point out. Typically, you don't see hammer fire guns with a trigger blade safety, but it is interesting that they did put it in there. This is a single action firearm, which means that hammer has to be cocked back in order for that firearm to release that hammer. It's just something to point out, very similar to a 1911. Also, like a 1911, you can cock and lock that pistol. So you can keep that just like a 1911, cocked and locked, and when you're ready to go, you just knock down that safety and you're ready to go. This does have ambidextrous controls. Both slide releases and safeties are on both sides of the gun, so you lefties, you're good to go. The magazine release does look like it is swappable, so yet again, you lefties, this is a good pistol for you. Right out of the box, ready to go for you. You just have to swap that mag release over. Other than that, it's a very small framed gun, very thin. It's a little over an inch wide, not too much over an inch wide, but it is a little bit wider than like the Smith & Wesson Shield. As you can see, across the back of the slide and across the back of the frame, they are a little bit different in their width. But overall length is... honestly, it's about the same. Maybe the Smith & Wesson might be a hair longer, but it's about the same. So this gun is perfectly concealable. If you're used to conceal carrying the Smith & Wesson Shields, this guy is just as concealable as that. Now, one thing I didn't say is this is the Shield Plus, so it's got a little bit bigger grip than the standard Shield. So if you're running that single stack Shield, that's even thinner than this guy. Just something to point out. This guy does have a nice high beaver tail, so you can get a nice high purchase without having to worry about slide or hammer bite. Very nice on that. And, you know, overall, it's got very good aesthetics. But you guys came here to watch me shoot it, right? Not sit here and talk about it. So let's get some rounds on target and just see how she feels while we're shooting it. All right, so this guy comes with a plethora of magazines. It comes with a 12, a 15, and a 17 round magazine. These are huge magazine capacities for such a small gun. The 12 adds just enough room that someone with large hands can get a good grip without dangling a finger, while the other ones add quite a bit of grip length. So you guys with extra large hands still have a fun range gun. Just interesting that it comes with so many different types of mags. One thing to point out is that these mags are not interchangeable with the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. I got a Shield Plus here. The mags do not go in the Shield Plus. Just something to point out for you guys. That's something they probably should have done, is they probably should have made the mag interchangeability. But Smith & Wesson has smarter designers than me, so they have a reason for everything they do, right? Let's go ahead and put some rounds on target and then see how she does. Let's hope this sight does not pop off on me again. Okay, so first things first, this is very snappy, very aggressive little pistol. Let's get up close so you guys can see that shot real quick. Let's go one-handed. Very interesting. This is a very heavy recoiling gun. They are a small micro pistol. Micro pistols tend to be very snappy, but I don't know. It just seems like it might be more than my Shield is. Another thing to point out is because of the way this grip is angled, like that roundness of the grip, it does add a little extra pressure to my two middle fingers. I think it's just because how round that front nodule is. If you notice, there's a little hump right there. Nothing crazy. It's actually really nice nice gun. Just something to point out that it does add a little extra pressure to the middles of my fingers. But that's my hand. Your hand may fit totally different on this grip than me. But let's go ahead and put these rounds on target and we'll shoot a little fast and see how she does. very manageable. You can manage that muzzle flip pretty well, so it's not an issue of the guns too much. It's very very manageable, very easy to get shots on target, pretty successful pretty quickly. We're gonna have to compare this to the Shield and just see, because to me it feels like it's a little bit more aggressive, but I don't think it actually is. So we're gonna go ahead and load up the Shield and load up this guy again, and we're gonna put some rounds on target and see if the two guns are different in any way. All right, guys, so I got rounds loaded up in both guns, but one thing I wanted to point out to you is with this 12 round mag, you get that good grip. The standard mag for the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus is the 10 rounder. As you can see, it dangles. So to make this video as fair as possible, I'm going to go ahead and throw the extended mag in the Smith & Wesson to make it have about the same size grip as the CSX. This is the 13 round magazine, and as you can see, gives me a nice full grip just like the CSX. So we got the best possible outcome for feel of shot. So let's go ahead and put some rounds on target with the CSX. Then we'll swap it over to the Smith & Wesson Shield and see if there's a felt recoil difference. Starting with the CSX. All right, we're gonna go ahead one-handed. All right, let's go ahead and pull out the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. We're going to go ahead and put a couple rounds on target. One-handed. Okay, so shots opinion, comparing them back to back. I will say, I think because of the polymer frame in this guy, on the way it's designed, the difference of the roundness, I should say, this is more of a pointed instead of rounded. It does feel like this one soaks up recoil just a little bit more than the CSX. That's shooting them back to back. That's my opinion. I do feel like the CSX is just a little bit more aggressive on that recoil than the Shield Plus. It's very minor, but it's the way it feels in the hand. On camera, it probably looks about the same, tell you the truth. I think they both have about the same muzzle flip, but the way it feels in the hand, the CSX does feel a little bit more aggressive. But let's go ahead and pop off these last rounds for the Shield Plus, and then we'll finish out our quick review of the CSX. Just interesting, because like I said, the CSX, the Shield has been my carry gun for a very long time. It just got knocked down comparing it to the Ruger Max 9. I really do like the Ruger Max 9, and I have so many mags for my Shield Plus, so it's not, I'm not selling those Shield Plus anytime soon. It's just, it got knocked out of the rotation because that Max 9 is just awesome. But let's go ahead and put a couple more rounds on this guy, and we'll give you a quick overview of my last first shots opinion of this guy. Very, very nice little pistol. Oh, look at that. And these were Loctited in, these screws, and that screw walked itself right on out. And now the sight's loose. These were Loctited in and tightened down. These were Loctited in and tightened down, and everything walked loose. Just something to point out. You might want to just go with an optic on this guy, because unless you never take the plate off. If you take the plate off, it might be hard to get the sights to stay on after that. I don't know. But just something to point out, everything's just a little loose on there. All right, guys, so what's my quick first thoughts opinion on the CSX E-Series? I didn't have the biggest pluses and minuses of this gun when I did my tabletop review. Now, that being said, now that I've taken it out to the range, what do I think of it? I think it fits a niche that there is out there. It fits a group of people that there are out there who absolutely have to have that metal frame hammer fired gun. Now there's a couple other options out there. There is like your single stacks like the SIG 938 and like the Kimber Micro, but there is also now like the KSX, I think it's KSX C from Kimber, which is very similar to the CSX, where it's a micro pistol double stack that runs a hammer fire metal frame. Hammer fired metal framed. But what's my opinion of this guy once I've shot him? Honestly, the recoil is a little bit more than I expected, being that it's a metal frame pistol. I knew it was going to be aggressive because it is a micro pistol. But as you saw in when I was shooting it compared to my Smith & Wesson Shield Plus, I actually feel like the Shield Plus is less felt recoil than this guy. And that's crazy because in comparison, the Max 9 is even less felt recoil than the Shield Plus. So that being said, this guy is a very aggressive little pistol. The other thing I don't like about this gun is that optics mounting system. As you can see with the Shield, I could take my optics plate off just fine, completely remove it, and I still have my rear sights. So it's good to go. The negative side with this guy is if those screws back out like they did on me twice now, when those screws back out and that plate goes gone, you have no rear sight anymore. It's gone. There's no rear sight. So that is a big negative to me. It might not be an issue to you guys, but I did torque these screws down and I did Loctite these screws and they still walk themselves out. So it's just something to point out. I don't know if maybe if you want to stick to iron sights, just leave it how it is outside the box. Unfortunately, I got this from my buddy after he had already mounted an optic and then remounted the plates back on. So I don't know if maybe a thread got stripped or something like that, and that's the reason it's walking out. But it is a negative in my opinion that the optics plate, if it comes out or off, the rear sight just goes kapooey. You're gone. That's one thing I don't like about the original the original SIG 365s that were optics ready. The rear sight were connected to the optics plate. With the new ones, they've fixed that. But nonetheless, that's something to point out on this guy. I don't like the optics mounting system. I wish they would have kept it closer to like the Shield where the rear sights are dovetailed in. But other than that, it is a really nice looking pistol. It does feel really good. The trigger's actually pretty nice. And I've seen your guys' comments. A lot of you guys are carrying these guys and having no problems. So it might be just this specific pistol that is having all these issues for me, or it just might be my personal opinions. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But it is something worthwhile to point out that those screws do walk loose, and when that plate comes off, that rear sight's gone, and you don't have a rear sight no more. Just those things are actual facts. If that plate comes off, you lose that rear sight. So that is something that's not my opinion. That is something that is on this gun. So that right there is a design flaw in my opinion. But let me know in the comment section what you guys think. It is a neat pistol. It is a neat offering from Smith & Wesson. I just think it needs some redesign ideas. But that is my quick thoughts and opinions. Let me know in the comment section what yours is. And as always, guys, I'm Gun Didi, and I'll see you heathens for the next one.
I got a God complex. Haters love to hate, but I never feel pressed. Got a lot on my plate, but I never get stressed. I'll take all the pressure like I'm acing this test. And like a damn Freemason, I'll run this nation. They call me a